By the hour of 3, when we reached the livery stables, we knew we were being stalked by the presence. For half an hour, 45 minutes at a time, we wouldn't hear it. Then the dull hum would come again. It was maddening me. And though we tried hard to hear some intelligible thoughts from it, all we could discern was malice, and an occasional tumult like the spectacle of dry leaves, disintegrated in the roar of the blaze. She was glad that we were riding home. It wasn't that the thing annoyed her. It was only what she had said earlier. She wanted the emptiness of the country, the quiet. When the open land broke before us, we were going so fast that the wind was the only sound, and I think I heard her laughing, but I wasn't sure. She loved the feel of the wind as I did. She loved the new brilliance of the stars over the darkened hills. But I wondered if there had been moments tonight when she had wept inwardly, and I had not known. There had been times when she was obscure and silent, and her eyes quivered as if they were crying, but there were absolutely no tears. I was deep into thoughts of that, I think, when we neared a dense wood that grew along the banks of a shallow stream, and quite suddenly the mare reared and lurched to the side. I was almost thrown. It was so unexpected. Gabrielle held on tight to my right arm. Every night I rode into this little glade, crashing over the narrow wooden bridge above the water. I loved the sound of the horses' hooves on the wood and the climb up the sloping bank, and my mare knew the path. But now she would have none of it. Shying, threatening to rear again, she turned of her own accord and galloped back towards Paris, until with all the power of my will I commanded her, reining her in. Gabrielle was staring back at the thick copse, the great mass of dark swaying branches that concealed the stream, and there came over the thin howling of the wind and that soft volume of rustling leaves the definite pulse of the presence in the trees. We heard it at the same moment, surely, because I tightened my arm around Gabrielle as she nodded, gripping my hand. "It's stronger," she said to me quickly, "and it is not one alone." "Yes," I said, enraged, "and it stands between me and my lair." I drew my sword, bracing Gabrielle in my left arm. "You're not riding into it," she cried out. "The hell I'm not," I said, trying to steady the horse. "We don't have 2 hours before sunrise. Draw your sword." She tried to turn to speak to me, but I was already driving the horse forward. And she drew her sword as I told her to do, her little hand knotted around it, as firmly as that of a man. Of course, the thing would flee as soon as I reached the copse. I was sure of that. I mean, the damn thing had never done anything but turn tail and run, and I was furious that it had frightened my mount and that it was frightening Gabrielle. With a sharp kick and the full force of my mental persuasion, I sent the horse racing straight ahead to the bridge. I locked my hand to the weapon. I bent low with Gabrielle beneath me. I was breathing rage as if I were a dragon, and when the mare's hooves hit the hollow wood over the water, I saw them, the demons, for the first time. White faces and white arms above us glimpsed for no more than a second, and out of their mouths the most horrid shrieking as they shook the branches, sending down on us a shower of leaves. "Damn you, you pack of harpies!" I shouted as we reached the sloping bank on the other side, but Gabrielle had let out a scream. Something had landed on the horse behind me, and the horse was slipping in the damp earth, and the thing had hold of my shoulder and the arm with which I tried to swing the sword. Whipping the sword over Gabrielle's head and down past my left arm, I chopped at the creature furiously and saw it fly off, a white blur in the darkness, while another one sprang at us with hands like claws. Gabrielle's blade sliced right through its outstretched arm. I saw the arm go up into the air, the blood spurting as if from a fountain. The screams became a searing wail. I wanted to slash every one of them to pieces. I turned the horse back too sharply so that it reared and almost fell. But Gabrielle had hold of the horse's mane, and she drove it again towards the open road. As we raced for the tower, we could hear them screaming as they came on, and when the mare gave out, we abandoned her and ran hand in hand towards the gates. I knew we had to get through the secret passage to the inner chamber before they climbed the outside wall. They must not see us take the stone out of place. Unlocking the gates and doors behind me as fast as I could, I carried Gabrielle up the stairs. By the time we reached the secret room and pushed the stone into place again, I heard their howling and shrieking below and their furs scraping against the walls. I snatched up an armful of firewood and threw it beneath the window. "Hurry! The kindling," I said, but there were half a dozen white faces already at the bars. Their shrieks echoed monstrously in the little cell. For one moment I could only stare at them as I backed away. They clung to the iron grating like so many bats, but they weren't bats. They were vampires, and vampires as we were vampires, in human form. Dark eyes peered at us from under mops of filthy hair, howls growing louder and fiercer, the fingers that clung to the grating caked with filth. Such clothing as I could see was no more than colorless rags, and the stench coming from them was the graveyard stench. Gabrielle pitched the kindling at the wall, and she jumped away as they reached to catch the hold of her. They bared their fangs, they screeched. Hands struggled to pick up the firewood and throw it back at us. Altogether they pulled at the grating as if they might free it from the stone. "Get the tinder box," I shouted. I grabbed up one of the stouter pieces of wood and thrust it right at the closest face, easily flinging the creature out and off the wall. Weak things. I heard it scream as it fell, but the others had clamped their hands on the wood, and they struggled with me now as I dislodged another dirty little demon. But by this time Gabrielle had lighted the kindling. The flames shot upwards. The howling stopped in a frenzy of ordinary speech. "It's fire! Get back! Get down! Get out of the way, you idiots! Down! Down! The bars are hot! Move away quickly!" Perfectly regular French, in fact an ever-increasing flood of pretty vernacular curse words. I burst out laughing, stomping my foot and pointing to them as I looked at Gabrielle. "A curse on you, blasphemer," one of them screamed. Then the fire licked at his hands, and he howled, falling backwards. "A curse on the profaners, the outlaws," came screams from below. It caught on quickly and became a regular chorus. "A curse on the outlaws who dare to enter the house of God." But they were scrambling down to the ground, the heavy timbers were catching, and the fire was roaring to the ceiling. "Go back to the graveyard where you came from, you pack of pranksters," I said. I would have thrown the fire down on them if I could have gotten near the window. Gabrielle stood still with her eyes narrow, obviously listening. Cries and howls continued from below, a new anthem of curses upon those who broke the sacred laws, blaspheme, provoke the wrath of God and Satan. They were pulling on the gates and lower windows. They were doing stupid things like throwing rocks at the wall. "They can't get in," Gabrielle said in a low monotone, her head still cocked attentively. "They can't break the gate." I wasn't so certain. The gate was rusted, very old. Nothing to do but wait. I collapsed on the floor, leaning against the side of the sarcophagus, my arms around my chest and my back bent. I wasn't even laughing anymore. She too sat down against the wall with her legs sprawled out before her. Her chest heaved a little and her hair was coming loose from the braid. It was a cobra's hood around her face, loose strands clinging to her white cheeks. Soot clung to her garments. The heat of the fire was crushing. The airless room shimmered with vapors, and the flames rose to shut out the night. But we could breathe the little air there was. We suffered nothing except the fear and the exhaustion. And gradually I realized she was about right at the gate. They hadn't managed to break it down. I could hear them drawing away. May the wrath of God punish the profane. There was some faint commotion near the stables. I saw it in my mind. My poor half-witted mortal stable boy dragged in terror from his hiding place, and my rage was redoubled. They were sending me images of it from their thoughts, the murder of that poor boy. "Damn them!" "Be still," Gabrielle said. "It's too late." Her eyes widened and then grew small again as she listened. He was dead. The poor miserable creature. I felt the death just as if I had seen a small dark bird suddenly rising from the stables. And she sat forward as though seeing it too, and then settled back as if she had lost consciousness, though she had not. She murmured, and it sounded like red velvet, but it was under her breath and I didn't catch the words. "I'll punish you for this, you gang of ruffians," I said aloud. I sent it out towards them. "You trouble my house. I swear you'll pay for this." But my limbs were getting heavier and heavier. The heat of the fire was almost drugging. All the night's strange happenings were taking their toll, and my exhaustion, and in the glare of the fire, I could not guess the hour. I think I fell to dreaming for an instant, and woke myself with a shiver, unsure of how much time had passed. I looked up and saw the figure of an unearthly young boy, an exquisite young boy, pacing the floor of the chamber. Of course, it was only Gabrielle.